there have been talks, even as of relatively recently, of remaking Enter the Dragon. I know David Leitch was attached to it for a while. Is that a good idea or not?
Hey guys, should they ever remake the original 1973 classic martial arts film starring Bruce Lee, Enter the Dragon? It's a very controversial topic that I'm going to cover in this video. But first, I'm going to give a little refresher on the classic film Enter the Dragon. Also talk about the discussions related to the remake that have been going on for a while with different people involved. And make sure to stay until the end of this video because I actually have two original cast members for Enter the Dragon. They're going to share their thoughts and their opinion on the whole thing related to the remake. And comment below, what do you guys think? Is that a good idea, a bad idea? Let me know. But first, let's get to a refresher on that 1973 classic. Enter the Dragon is regarded by many people as the greatest martial arts movie of all time. It was released in 1973 and directed by Robert Clouse, who would later direct several other martial arts classics such as Jackie Chan's Battle Creek Brawl in 1980, Jim Cotta in 1985, and China O'Brien in 1990 starring Cynthia Rothrock. While those films are classic in their own right within the martial arts genre, none could match Enter the Dragon, and it's a shame that Clouse never got a chance to work with Bruce Lee again, as Bruce would unfortunately pass away on July 20th, 1973 at the age of 32, just 1 month prior to Enter the Dragon's premiere in Los Angeles on August 19th, 1973. Enter the Dragon revolves around three main characters. Bruce Lee plays Lee, a Shaolin martial artist recruited by an agency to investigate a tournament hosted by a suspected crime lord named Han. The other two main characters are Roper, played by John Saxon, and Williams, played by Jim Kelly. The two men are former Vietnam Army buddies who enter the tournament due to different problems that they're facing. Williams' character in the film dealt with the issue of racism in America, which was prevalent at that time in the 1960s and 70s, and the BKF, Black Karate Federation, is even featured in the film. The Black Karate Federation was formed in 1969 in response to an environment of racism against black competitors in martial arts tournaments in Southern California. Of course, Bruce Lee dealt with the issue of racial bias as well and was pretty much unheard of at the time to cast an Asian as a lead in a Hollywood film. Enter the Dragon, of course, was an American and Hong Kong co-production, and Lee had already found great success in Hong Kong films, which certainly helped get Enter the Dragon off the ground. When it was originally pitched in the 1970s, the film was supposed to be titled Blood and Steel, and in the book Racial Stigma on the Hollywood Screen from World War II to the Present, author Brian Locke writes how it was also one of the first mainstream martial arts films that was multicultural with an Asian, white, and black heroic protagonist, as the producers felt that would appeal to the widest possible international audiences. Enter the Dragon turned out to be a massive hit, having now grossed over $400 million on its $850,000 budget. In 2004, Enter the Dragon was selected for preserving in the United National Film Registry by the Library of Congress as being, quote, culturally, historically, or aesthetically significant. Into the Badlands star Daniel Wu stated, Enter the Dragon is one movie that should not be touched because it wasn't about story, it was about Bruce Lee's incredible charisma, which cannot be replicated. Which I agree with, definitely cannot be replicated. That man was certainly one of a kind.
Did you ever think that Enter the Dragon would become the cultural phenomenon it is today? Because it's arguably the greatest martial arts film of all time. Like, Bruce Lee was starting to come up, but this was like his first big budget production, like a co-production between Hollywood and Hong Kong. But did you guys ever think while filming it that this would just be like the martial arts film of all time?
I had, when they came to me and when they were going to involve Bruce, because of Green Hornet, we knew that he was going to be very good in whatever movie they put him in, because he was the type of person that had a personality that wanted to impress when he done something. So when it came time to do that, that's exactly what he did.
Now, let's go over a little history on when the idea of remaking Enter the Dragon came about. Talks of a remake of Enter the Dragon have swirled for years, with many names attached for short periods of time. Sons of Anarchy creator Kurt Stutter was going to make a noir version back in 2009, but that didn't ever come into fruition. Both Spike Lee and Brett Ratner have also spoken about the remake over the last 10 years. As far as Spike Lee goes, This was around the same time that he was remaking Park Chan-wook's Old Boy in English. Despite the lukewarm response that his version received, Spike Lee was convinced that people found his film better than the Korean original. I disagree, by the way. Spike Lee also went to the extent of assuring that when it came to Enter the Dragon remake, he would direct the hell out of it, and with Ken Jeong of the Hangover series as the lead, his film would be greater. As far as Brett Ratner goes, he stated that he wasn't trying to find the next Bruce Lee or anything crazy like that. Evidently, he only brought up the remake after professing his love for Lalo Schifrin's amazing score, and seemed to indicate that his film would be a reimagining of Robert Klaus's iconic showcase for Lee's talents. More recently, in 2018, it's been reported that David Leitch most recently stepped up to take over the remake. David Leitch could be a good candidate for an Enter the Dragon remake. He started his career as a stuntman and then went on to be a stunt coordinator before taking on his current role of director. He has worked on Deadpool 2, the John Wick franchise, and Atomic Blonde, which was his first solo director credit. All of the aforementioned movies have been praised for their intense action scenes.
I'm a huge fan of, that movie, but I'm also a Bruce Lee fan, and my martial arts lineage is Jeet Kune Do, and so I studied Jeet Kune Do with Dan Inosanto, so all of Bruce Lee's movies are sort of close to my heart, so if we get the opportunity to take it on in a respectful way, then it'd be really exciting.
Now let's hear what two original cast members of Enter the Dragon have to say. Sijo Stephen Muhammad and Bishop Donnie Williams, who were actually also two founding members of the BKF, Black Karate Federation, which is featured in the film Enter the Dragon, and they're actually in that scene with Jim Kelly, which is really cool.
There have been talks, even as of relatively recently, of remaking Enter the Dragon. I know David Leitch was attached to it for a while. Is that a good idea or not?
My opinion, they'll never match it. They'll never be able to bring in any star today that can even make it a legend again. I think Enter the Dragon is it. If those actors were still here, they could do a part 2, but that's about it. I don't think they can redo it, make it better.
Sijo, Muhammad, do you agree with that?
I agree with it. There will never be another movie like Enter the Dragon.
I absolutely agree with you. I just wanted to get your take on it. We're getting some comments from in the chat. So
Bishop Williams, how do you think Enter the Dragon compares today compared to when it was released? Because, for example, I was born after it came out, but it was such a big deal growing up. So do you think the impact is even greater now, 50 years later, or was it bigger back in the 70s when it came out?
Well, I think it was bigger in the 70s when it came out, but because of the death of Bruce and so many people in the movie that is no longer with us, it's becoming really a big thing. Remember, a lot of people always say, well, who could win, Chuck Norris or Bruce Lee? Who could win this one or that one? But I don't know of any commercial tournament that Bruce Lee entered and won. But yet he was a great martial artist. He was just a great. So today, the myth of Bruce Lee is greater than the reality of Bruce Lee. So today it's big, but it was bigger when the film was made, because I remember this story I can tell you. I was in that film, I called it 3.2 seconds. Now I did a film with in Japan with also with Tadashi Yamashita. I did one with Tadashi Yamashita. I co-starred in the film in Japan. I went back, did another film in Japan called Zakarate 3. And with that, I did not receive any, but Enter the Dragon, the little boy knocked at my door and say, "Is your name Donnie Williams?" I said, "Yes." He goes, look at his friends and say, "See, I told you, I know Donnie Williams. He's in that movie, Enter the Dragon." And I did 2 other films co-starred, nobody knew about it. 3.2 seconds, I'm a star. So yes, it definitely did its part to make us successful. But I had no idea that it would be as great as it is, even today, 50 years later.